When Michael and his family moved into Oakwood Gardens, he believed they were finally stepping into peace, quiet streets, manicured lawns, helpful neighbors, and a safe place for his daughter, Emma, to grow up. But every neighborhood has that one person, and here, it was Karen Whitmore. Karen wasn't just a member of the HOA, she was the self-appointed queen of the subdivision. She patrolled with a clipboard, took pictures of violations, and wrote fines for everything: trash bins placed an inch off the curb, grass half an inch too long, a kid's bike left on the driveway for 5 minutes. Michael tried to ignore her at first. He was a single father, working long shifts and doing his best to hold everything together. He wasn't interested in drama. The first fine was laughable: motion-activated porch light too bright. The second was absurd: windblown leaves in driveway. But the third one? Child chalk drawings on the walkway. Karen knocked on his door, claiming it was defacement of neighborhood property. That was the first time Michael saw how far she could push things. Still, he paid the fines just to keep the peace. But the fines started increasing, and fast. Suddenly, late fees, processing fees, enforcement fees. Every time he asked for proof or clarification, Karen twisted HOA rules to threaten him. Michael began documenting everything. Neighbors whispered about her. She once called animal control for a dog breathing too loudly. She tried to shut down a small birthday gathering for violating noise ordinances. People avoided her. Some moved just to escape her. Then one morning, Michael received a letter. HOA plans to place a lien on your property due to unpaid fines. He knew it was time to fight back. But he had no idea how far Karen would go until the day she crossed a line no parent could ever forgive. It happened on a Saturday afternoon. 7-year-old Emma was playing with sidewalk chalk in front of their driveway: rainbows, flowers, and the crooked smiling sun only kids know how to draw. Michael was washing his car, music playing quietly, minding his business. Karen stormed toward them, red-faced, holding a stack of papers. "This is vandalism," she shouted. "I've warned you." Michael calmly explained, "Chalk washes off. No damage done." But Karen wasn't listening. She was escalating. She threatened fines, lawyers, and property seizure. Michael told her, firmly, to leave his property and speak to the HOA board if she had an issue. That simple boundary made her explode. She screamed that people like him didn't belong here. Emma got scared and backed away. Just as Michael turned to comfort his daughter, Karen reached into her waistband. A gun. Not a toy. Not a bluff. She pointed it directly at Emma. For 3 seconds, the world stopped. Michael froze in horror. Emma began to cry. Karen's hand shook, but her voice was steady enough to say, "Maybe now you'll listen." Michael slowly stepped in front of his daughter, heart pounding, telling Karen to put it away. A neighbor across the street witnessed it, immediately calling 911. Sirens approached fast. When police arrived, Karen tried to hide the gun in her purse. But the neighbor's camera doorbell captured everything: her shouting, her threats, and the moment she aimed at a child. Karen was arrested on the spot. But she wasn't done yet. She claimed the gun wasn't loaded, that she felt threatened, and that she was just enforcing HOA rules. She hired lawyers, tried to paint herself as the victim, and even demanded the HOA press charges against Michael. And that's when he decided. He wasn't going to let her walk away. Not this time. He would build a case strong enough to put her exactly where she belonged. Michael wasn't a lawyer. He wasn't rich. But he had something Karen didn't: truth, video proof, and an entire neighborhood tired of her reign. While Karen was released on bail, Michael documented every email, every fine, every threat, every recorded encounter. Neighbors came forward with stories: Karen trespassing, yelling at kids, threatening to tow cars, filing false reports. One neighbor had footage of her screaming at a teenage boy for having a skateboard. Another caught her rummaging through mailboxes. Someone else claimed she slashed tires over parking violations. A picture of who she really was began forming: dangerous, unstable, power-obsessed. Michael contacted a lawyer who specialized in HOA abuse and harassment cases. Once he showed the footage of Karen pointing a gun at a child, the attorney didn't hesitate. They filed charges: assault with a deadly weapon, child endangerment, harassment, and attempted intimidation. But they went further. They filed a civil lawsuit for emotional trauma and damages. They petitioned the HOA board for removal. They involved the local news. Suddenly, Karen wasn't just a neighborhood nuisance, she was headline material. Reporters knocked on doors. News vans parked on the street. Neighbors publicly spoke out. Karen tried to silence everyone, but her threats only made things worse. Then the biggest twist. Several former neighborhoods where she lived came forward. She had a history of this behavior, and no one ever stopped her. Michael made sure this time would be different. The courtroom was packed. Parents, neighbors, reporters, everyone wanted to see what would happen. Karen arrived confident, dressed like a victim, claiming community service and misunderstanding. But nothing saves someone when video evidence shows them aiming a gun at a crying 7-year-old. The judge played the footage. Gasps echoed through the room. Karen's face went pale. The prosecution laid out her history of aggression, threats, and controlling behavior. Neighbors testified one after another. Karen snapped on the stand. She yelled, insulted the judge, and insisted she was simply protecting the neighborhood from degenerates. That sealed her fate. She was convicted of white heavy checkmark brandishing a firearm, white heavy checkmark child endangerment, white heavy checkmark assault, white heavy checkmark harassment, white heavy checkmark making terroristic threats. Her sentence: 6 years in prison, mandatory psychological evaluation, and a restraining order preventing her from ever contacting Michael or his family again. The HOA, embarrassed and facing backlash, removed her permanently and apologized publicly. They forgave all of Michael's fines and eliminated most of the ridiculous rules Karen created. Oakwood Gardens finally became peaceful. But for Michael, it still didn't feel finished, not until he made sure she could never hurt another child again. For the first time in months, Michael slept without fear. Emma played outside without looking over her shoulder. Neighbors greeted each other again. Kids rode bikes, laughed, chalked sidewalks freely. Karen's house was sold. Her car repossessed. Her name ruined. Michael won damages from the lawsuit, which he placed into a savings account for Emma. He also worked with the city to pass a new ordinance limiting HOA authority and increasing oversight, so no one could abuse power like Karen did again. 1 year later, on the anniversary of Karen's sentencing, Emma drew a rainbow on the sidewalk. Michael watched, smiling, knowing they fought a battle most people would have walked away from. A neighbor walked over and said softly, "Thanks for what you did. You didn't just protect your daughter. You saved this whole neighborhood." Michael nodded. He didn't like being a hero. He just wanted his daughter to be safe. And thanks to him, the woman who terrorized families for years was exactly where she belonged, behind bars. Finally, Oakwood Gardens felt like home.